Utunu's debut novella. I purchased this before release out of an effort to review more fandom projects. I'd read some of Utunu's work before and was interested to see what he had to offer. Set in a coastal area in a world containing both humans and gnolls, aka hyenas, the story follows two characters who are sent adrift after a powerful storm. Forced to rely on each other, they slowly begin to form a friendship between them. The two main characters are Kunet, a dark-skinned pearl diver from his local village, and Shima, a gnoll or anthro-hyena he encounters after his village is damaged by a sudden storm. The two are thrown together by circumstance without supplies, aid, or even a language in common. Together, they must find a way to survive if they are to make it somewhere safe. Kunet is a young pearl diver, displaced by a sudden violent storm. Tossed into the sea in his efforts to salvage their boats, he awakens on a raft with a single gnoll. Injured and not speaking his language, Kunet is initially distrustful of the being. They must learn to work together if they are to have any chance of finding safe harbor. There are two words I rarely apply to most of the things I review, and those words are flawless and exceptional. This particular story is deserving of both. A lot of stories are done really well, but I want to highlight how above and beyond this particular tale is. I consider myself a fairly discerning reader, and I don't suffer what I consider to be issues lightly, especially when they are things that detract from the quality of the piece. But with this, I found myself to be utterly stunned with how perfect everything was, telling a mostly self-contained narrative which at its core is little more than two people on a deserted island. Now, this is not to say that I purposely seek problems or downgrade stories, but I believe that telling stories is a skill, and only a few people can write stories of such nuance as to be worthy of my unconditional recommendation. In addition to meeting my standards for quality to be granted the exceptional designation, it must also do two things. It must make me feel something inside, and it must surprise me. Do those two things, and you have my respect and admiration. The story itself is a character study between Kunet and Shima. Stranded after a storm damages their villages, the pair find themselves on a raft and in turn an island with no help in sight. Distrustful of each other, the two slowly learn to communicate and help each other as they work to leave the island. I must admit I was very impressed by how well this was handled. Bit by bit, Shima learns Kunet's language, and not only do we gradually see this as part of the tools to bond them, but there are a lot of aspects of unspoken communication that I think come into play, especially when words aren't an option. I thought that the personalities were very endearing, that they worked well together, and I also have to point out what I call the sitcom limitations, because the bulk of this story is just two people on an island. And when you think about a sitcom, they usually have no more than a few people and a handful of sets. With the exception of episodes where they travel, you are limited in what you can use. And it is a mark of creativity that they can do this and keep it so fresh, and such is the case here. With only a few chapters featuring other characters, it is so expertly done that you don't even notice the absence of other characters. And those that are here are used to great effect, with their appearances advancing the narrative so well. The pacing was fantastic, with beats coming at the right moments, and even though I could see some things coming, I felt they were perfect for what the story called for, which is a masterful use of the narrative techniques. And even though perhaps others might have seen it coming, the ending stunned me. I won't go into detail so as not to spoil it for anyone watching, but let me say that the ending to this was spectacular. I told the author it was hard for me to finish the last two chapters just because it tugged on my heartstrings so much. It made me feel something deeply, and I really came to love these characters so much that I wished I could read it all over again for the first time. To know that this was Utunu's first published work is almost an effort in disbelief, because it is truly a remarkable story, and one I think every person should have on their reading list. There are people who have been writing for decades, and they have never managed to do so well. If my opinion carries any weight with you, read this. You'll be glad you did. If you like werewolves, check out my book Blue Moon, available in paperback and ebook on Amazon. Thanks for watching. If you liked it, click the subscribe button and leave a comment below. See you next time.